In a small African village nestled between rolling hills and a gentle river, there lived a young woman named Amina. She was known for her resilience and a heart as warm as the sun that kissed the earth each morning. Amina's days began before dawn, fetching water from the village well, her clay pot balanced effortlessly on her head, and singing songs her grandmother had taught her. She tended to the modest crops her family relied on, her hands as much a part of the soil as the roots that grew within it. Amina's family was her anchor. She lived with her aging mother, who often told stories of the village's past, weaving lessons into every tale, and her two younger siblings, who looked up to her like a second mother. Their small hut, with its thatched roof and earthen floor, was a testament to years of perseverance. Despite the simplicity of their life, the family found joy in shared meals of roasted maize and vegetables, and laughter that echoed into the quiet nights. However, Amina carried a quiet burden. In a culture where marriage was seen as a mark of adulthood and a way to secure one's place in the community, she remained unmarried. Suitors came and went, often discouraged by her independence and her unwillingness to compromise on her values. The whispers in the village grew louder over time, with some speculating that Amina's strong-willed nature made her undesirable, while others believed she was waiting for something, or someone, special. Her days were filled with hard work and silent prayers. The other villagers saw her as a curious mix of determination and mystery, a woman bound by tradition yet quietly defying it. Despite the murmurs, Amina never let the opinions of others dull her spirit. She found solace in the rhythm of her daily chores, the hum of the wind through the trees, and the dreams she dared not voice. Life in the village continued as it always had, but little did anyone know, a stranger was about to arrive and change everything. Life in the village moved at a predictable pace, but even in such a close-knit community, disputes were inevitable. For Amina, the trouble began one dry season when the village's communal well started to run low. The scarcity of water created tension among the villagers, especially between Amina's family and their neighbor, Bwana, an older man known for his sharp tongue and fiery temper. Bwana had always been critical of Amina, often remarking that her strong-willed nature would lead to trouble. When the water levels dropped, Bwana claimed that Amina was taking more than her fair share, accusing her of filling extra pots to hoard for her family. The accusations spread quickly through the village, with some siding with Bwana and others defending Amina's integrity. The situation escalated one morning when Amina arrived at the well to find Bwana standing guard, a scowl etched deep into his face. "Young women should know their place," he said, his voice loud enough for the other villagers to hear. "You think because you're unmarried you can take what belongs to the rest of us?" Amina's cheeks burned with a mix of anger and humiliation. "I've taken nothing more than what my family needs," she replied firmly, trying to keep her voice steady despite the weight of the onlookers' stares. The argument drew a small crowd, and soon other voices joined in. Some criticized Amina for her independence, while others questioned Bwana's aggressive stance. The well, once a place of shared laughter and community bonding, had become a battleground. The conflict didn't end there. Rumors began to swirl through the village, painting Amina as selfish and disrespectful of the elders. Even those who didn't believe the accusations started to avoid her, fearing association might bring them into Bwana's bad graces. The tension spilled over into her home. Amina's younger brother, Musa, came home one evening visibly upset. "Why is everyone talking about us, sister?" he asked. "Some boys at the river said we think we're better than everyone else." "Is it true?" Amina's heart sank. The conflict with Bwana was no longer just her burden, it was affecting her family. Her mother, though supportive, urged her to find a way to resolve the issue. "You know how things are here," her mother said softly one evening. "It's better to make peace, even if you're not in the wrong." But Amina struggled with the idea of apologizing for something she hadn't done. She believed in fairness and truth and felt that giving in would mean compromising her values. At the same time, she couldn't ignore the toll the situation was taking on her family and her standing in the community. In the days that followed, Amina tried to avoid further confrontations. She limited her trips to the well and focused on her chores, but the whispers and cold stares continued. Even her closest friends seemed hesitant to be seen with her, afraid of becoming the next target of village gossip. Despite her efforts, the tension only grew. The issue of water scarcity had opened the door to deeper resentments and long-held biases. It wasn't just about Amina and Bwana anymore. It was about the village's unspoken rules and the roles people were expected to play. Amina's defiance of those expectations made her a symbol of both hope and disruption, and the conflict was far from over. The conflict between Amina and Bwana spiraled further, touching every corner of the village and straining the delicate web of relationships Amina had carefully maintained. What began as an argument over water had grown into a storm of rumors, resentment, and mounting tensions. Bwana, emboldened by the attention, continued to speak against Amina in the marketplace and at gatherings. "A woman without respect for her elders will bring ruin to her family," he proclaimed one evening at a village council meeting. His words were met with nods from some and murmurs of dissent from others. Though a few villagers believed in Amina's innocence, they were reluctant to speak out against Bwana, fearing his wrath. The whispers reached every household, including Amina's. Her mother, always a source of strength, had grown quiet, her face lined with worry. "Amina," she said one evening as they sat by the fire, "we have lived peacefully in this village for generations. I do not want to see that peace broken. Perhaps it is time to let go of pride and seek a way to mend things." Amina clenched her fists, her heart heavy with frustration. "Mother, how can I apologize for something I haven't done? Is it fair to let lies win?" Her younger brother, Musa, who had been listening quietly, chimed in. "Sister, the other children tease me at the river. They say we think we are better than everyone else. I don't understand why they hate us." His words cut deep, and Amina felt a pang of guilt. She realized the conflict was no longer just about her, it was affecting her family, too. But what could she do? Every move seemed to deepen the divide. The community's attitude toward Amina shifted in subtle but painful ways. At the well, women who once greeted her warmly now avoided her gaze. In the fields, neighbors who used to share tools and advice worked in silence. Even the children seemed to sense the tension, running away when she approached. The isolation weighed heavily on Amina, but she refused to let it break her spirit. Instead, she poured her energy into her work, tending to her crops and helping her mother with household chores. Still, the loneliness was a constant companion, gnawing at her resolve. The situation reached a boiling point during a village meeting meant to address the water scarcity. Bwana, as expected, dominated the conversation, pointing fingers and demanding stricter rules for water usage. "Some people," he said, glaring in Amina's direction, "take advantage of our generosity. We must protect our resources." Amina couldn't stay silent any longer. Rising to her feet, she spoke with a calm but firm voice. "I have done nothing wrong, and I will not allow baseless accusations to tarnish my name. If there is evidence against me, let it be shown. If not, let us focus on solving the real problem. The well is running dry, and blaming each other will not fill it." Her words hung in the air, met with a mix of murmurs and silence. Some villagers nodded in agreement, while others shifted uncomfortably, unwilling to choose sides. The tension from the meeting spilled into the following days. Amina's family began to feel the strain more acutely. Her mother grew more anxious, worrying about how the conflict might affect their future. "What if no one wants to trade with us?" she whispered one night. "What if we are cast out?" Musa became increasingly withdrawn, avoiding his usual playmates and spending more time alone. Even Amina's friends, who had once stood by her, began to distance themselves, fearful of being drawn into the conflict. Despite the growing pressure, Amina refused to back down. She sought advice from the village elder, Baba Juma, a wise man respected by all. Sitting under the shade of an old baobab tree, she poured out her frustrations and fears. Baba Juma listened patiently, stroking his gray beard. "Child," he said after a long pause, "truth is like the sun, it cannot be hidden for long. But the way you carry yourself in these times will determine how others remember you. Pride is not your enemy, but neither is humility. Sometimes, it is better to take one step back to move 2 steps forward." His words lingered in Amina's mind as she returned home. She didn't know what the next step should be, but she realized that the path to resolution would require more than stubbornness. It would take wisdom, patience, and perhaps a willingness to sacrifice her pride for the sake of her family and the community. The conflict had drawn battle lines across the village, but Amina knew it was up to her to find a way to bridge the divide before it consumed everything she held dear. The morning sun cast long shadows over the village square as Amina made her way to the council meeting. The air was heavy with anticipation. Everyone knew this was the day the water dispute would come to a head. Villagers gathered in clusters, whispering and exchanging glances. Amina's heart pounded, but she kept her head high, determined to face whatever lay ahead. The council meeting was held under the ancient baobab tree, a symbol of unity and wisdom. The elders sat in a semicircle, their expressions grave. Wana was already there, his posture exuding confidence as he exchanged murmurs with his supporters. Amina took her place across from him, her family standing quietly behind her. Baba Juma, the most senior elder, began the proceedings with a solemn tone. "Today, we gather to address the accusations that have divided our community. This is not only about water but about the harmony of our village. Both sides will speak, and we shall seek the truth." Wana was quick to take the floor. His voice was sharp as he recounted his version of events, painting Amina as selfish and untrustworthy. "She has taken more than her share, while others suffer. Is this the kind of behavior we should accept in our village?" The crowd murmured in agreement, but some remained silent, their expressions unreadable. Amina listened intently, waiting for her turn. When it came, she rose slowly, her voice calm but resolute. "I understand your frustrations," she began, addressing the villagers rather than just Bwana. "Water is precious to all of us. But I have not taken more than my share, nor have I ever acted against the well-being of this community. If anyone has proof, let them present it now." Her words were met with silence. No one stepped forward, not even Bwana. Emboldened, Amina continued, "This conflict has caused more harm than the water scarcity itself. Neighbors have turned against neighbors, families have been divided, and for what? To protect our resources, we need to work together, not tear each other apart." The elder nodded and gestured for Bwana to respond. For the first time, he hesitated, his bravado faltering under the weight of Amina's sincerity. He muttered something about fairness but offered no concrete evidence. Sensing the shift, Baba Juma stood and addressed the crowd. "It is clear that this conflict has grown beyond reason. Amina has shown patience and a willingness to seek peace. We must now decide not just who is right, but how we can move forward as a community. The villagers, moved by Amina's words, began to murmur in agreement. Even those who had doubted her seemed to soften. Wana, seeing the tide turning against him, reluctantly offered a grudging apology. "Perhaps I was too quick to accuse," he said, though his tone lacked genuine remorse. The elders declared the matter resolved and outlined plans to manage the water fairly. The crowd dispersed, and for the first time in weeks, Amina felt a glimmer of hope. She had stood her ground and, in doing so, had reminded the village of the strength that came from unity. The days following the council meeting were a quiet yet powerful turning point for the village. The water dispute had been resolved, and while wounds from the conflict lingered, there was a newfound understanding among the villagers. Amina returned to her fields, her heart lighter but her mind still reflecting on the events that had unfolded. One evening, as she sat outside her modest home, her younger brother approached with an earnest expression. "Sister, I misjudged you," he admitted, his voice low but sincere. "I believed the gossip and doubted your intentions. I'm sorry." Amina smiled, her forgiveness immediate. "We all make mistakes, little brother. What matters is that we learn and grow from them." The words spread like ripples in a pond. Other villagers, one by one, began to acknowledge their part in the conflict, whether through rumors, silence, or taking sides. A sense of humility swept through the community, reminding everyone of the shared struggles that bound them together. The village elders implemented a fair water sharing system, drawing on the wisdom of the community. The once divided villagers came together to repair the broken well, a project that symbolized more than just access to water. It represented the healing of fractured relationships. Amina, though humbled by the experience, carried a quiet pride. She had stood firm in her values and demonstrated the power of patience, courage, and community. The lesson was clear: unity and understanding could overcome even the most divisive challenges. As the sun set over the village, casting a golden glow across the fields, Amina felt at peace. Life would not always be easy, but the bonds of family and community were stronger than any conflict. The villagers had learned to listen, forgive, and work together, a lesson that would serve them for generations to come. Thank you for watching this heartfelt story of resilience and community. What would you have done in Amina's place? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective matters. Have you ever faced a conflict where unity and understanding made all the difference? Let us know your experiences. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales. Share this video with friends and family to spread the message of forgiveness and togetherness. Thank you for your support, and see you in the next story.